Recognize Mr. Aaron Solem for your testimony.
Thank you for the opportunity to appear before you today. I've been practicing labor and constitutional law for over a decade on behalf of individual employees at the National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation. Since its inception in 1968, the foundation provides free legal aid to employees who wish to exercise their rights to refrain from joining or assisting labor organizations and to freely choose whether or not to be represented by such organizations. Now, the principal purpose of the National Labor Relations Act is to protect employee free choice. The Act gives employees an equal right to choose to join a union and to refrain from joining a union. Former Chairman Miscamara did an excellent job in his oral testimony and his written testimony describing the Joy Silk regime that the General Counsel is attempting to bring back. But I want to address what happens during a card check drive and how hard it is for employees to get a secret ballot election to decertify a union. In a card check, an employee can be cornered by a unionizer at work or at home. It can be one organizer, but sometimes it's more, 2 or 3. They present a card to the employee asking them to authorize the union to become the monopoly representative. But there are many documented cases where employees are threatened, pressured, harassed, and tricked into signing cards. The union organizer may cajole the employee by telling them that the card is just for more information or just for an election. The organizer can tell them that a majority of employees have already signed and that the other employees will know if they don't sign. Worse, organizers have made threats of violence to employees who may not wish to sign. This is coercive conduct that would not occur when someone is looking over a secret ballot in an NLRB conducted election. For example, the following activity is not allowed in board-conducted secret ballot elections: prolonged conversations with prospective voters in the polling area by union or employer representatives, electioneering among employees waiting in line to vote, speech-making by a union or employer to massed groups within 24 hours of the election, a union or employer keeping a list of employees who have voted as they enter in the polling place other than the official eligibility list, and a union or employer handling ballots. But similar conduct occurs by union organizers in every single card check campaign. The place where the union confronts an employee with the option to sign an authorization card is the functional equivalent of the ballot box of the polling place. When an employee signs or refuses to sign an authorization card, he or she is not likely to be alone. This decision is going to be made in the presence of, like I said, 1 or more union organizers. This will also likely occur after a union mass meeting. In either event, the employee's decision is not secret, as in a board-conducted election, because the union knows who signed and who did not. Now, the General Counsel is working hand-in-hand with the board to ensure that it is easy to get a union in through card check, but hard to get the union out. After a union is recognized, if employees want to exercise their right to a secret ballot, they are barred by the board's proposed rule, which brings back in full force the voluntary recognition bar. This means that an employee cannot file a decertification election for 6 months and up to 1 year after a voluntary recognition. Similarly, if the union and employer sign a contract, the contract bar will bar a decertification election for up to 3 years. After a card check and a mandatory recognition under the Joy Silk regime, there may be a bar for employees seeking an election for up to 4 years. Similarly, the board is bringing back the repudiated and heavily criticized blocking charge policy. Under the blocking charge policy, a union can block an election simply by filing an unproven, meritless charge to halt an election. The prior board, under the leadership of Chairman Ring, modified the blocking charge policy to remove its worst excesses and ensure that most decertification elections proceed to a prompt vote. The blocking charge reforms have been a success. Most of the employees I represent can now file and promptly receive timely decertification elections. The reforms have not been perfect, but bringing back the blocking charge policy will be a massive loss for employee free choice, the principal purpose of the Act. So in closing, card checks, mandatory recognitions, election bars, and blocks undermine employees' right to refrain from unionization. This committee should take action to ensure every employee receives a secret ballot and unions can no longer unilaterally halt decertification elections from occurring. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Solem.